Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I hope you are well. We start explaining the last three chapters of the material of the Scarlet Letter. So I just wanted to highlight the main points in chapters 13, 14 and 15 in order to give you an idea. So these are the last three chapters that we can highlight here in a very short video. I don't want to take too much time, but I just like to give you an idea about what happened in chapter 12. You remember the scaffold scene and what we did, exploring the character of Dimmesdale, his inner conflict and his psychological state, how he went from his house to the scaffold in order to punish himself, and all the other details which accompanied Dimmesdale's existence on the scaffold. How we explore his inner conflict, how he is struggling with his life, as he is being tortured, and then we see how he is accompanied by Hester and Pearl, and later we have some other references, something about Governor Winthrop and Minister Wilson, the meteor. All these evidences are available in chapter 12, which prepare us for the next chapter, which is chapter 13. In chapter 13 we have an idea about the character of Hester. As you see, the title is another review of Hester. These are the main points that we have in chapter 13, a new insight on Hester's character, a new view, a new perspective. We used to see Hester as an isolated person, a hated person who is disliked by the public, who is an adulterer, but now the case is different. She reconsiders her vow to Chillingworth. I just like to remind you that in chapter 4, I remember when she was visited by Chillingworth, she made a vow that she will keep Chillingworth's character hidden, that she would not tell that this is my husband. But because of the torture that Dimmesdale feels, as you encountered in chapter 12, when he said, this man, I am scared, I am very afraid of this person, I am shivering because of his existence. Hester, do you know him? So now she tries to reconsider her vow, and she plans to tell Dimmesdale about the nature, about the character of Chillingworth and who he is. A reference is made to adultery, which is committed by Hester and Dimmesdale, in comparison with revenge, which is conducted by Chillingworth, and the writer, as you see, goes along and stands with Hester and Dimmesdale, because their deed is made out of love, but for revenge is made out of hatred, and here is the difference. She has a good status in the community. Now Hester is a popular face, a popular figure. She is loved and people appreciate her. So the letter A on her gown, which used to refer to adulterer, no more refers to adulterer. Now it starts to refer to Abel. So I highlighted the main points in chapter 13. As you see here, she was self-ordained a sister of mercy. This is how people consider Hester, as the sister of mercy. So much power to do and power to sympathize that many people refuse to interpret the Scarlet Letter A by its original signification. So people's view towards Hester has changed. Many people refuse to consider the A as adulterer. No, it is now, they said that it meant able, which means that she managed to adapt to the situation and now she is a better person. So strong was Hester Prynne with a woman's strength. See, this is how people consider Hester, telling each other, do you see that woman with the embroidered badge? They would say to strangers, it is our Hester. This means that Hester has become just like a possession of that society. They love her, they appreciate her, and they take care of her. The towns on Hester, who is so kind to the poor, so helpful to the sick, and so comfortable to the afflicted. This is how the society has changed, or has changed its viewpoint and perspective towards Hester. Yet, had little Pen never come to her from the spiritual world, it might have been so far otherwise. Then she might have come down to us in history hand in hand with Anne Hutchinson as the foundress of a religious sect. This is a praise, a kind of good words that are said on behalf or in the right of Hester, according to the writer's point of view, that she deserves to be considered just like Anne Hutchinson, whom we refer to in chapter 1. She discerns it may be such a hopeless task before her. As first step, the whole system of the society is to be torn down and built up anew. This is Hester's responsibility towards the Puritan society, and this is of course the writer's opinion, that the Puritan society is structured, is built and constructed on false values, and in order to eradicate and get rid of these values, this kind of system must be torn down, must be destroyed, and then built newly according to new principles and new ideas and new steps. So on the tongue of Hester, the writer says, a first step, the whole system of a society is to be torn down and built up anew. Then the very nature of the opposite sex, the female sex, or its long hereditary habit, which has become like nature, is to be essentially modified before women can be allowed to assume what seems a fair and suitable position. So women's status in the society needs to be reconsidered, need to be restructured in order to fit in a good society. So now we refer to Chillingworth and Hester's plan to meet Chillingworth in the ensuing time. In fine, Hester resolved to meet her former husband to do might be in her power for the rescue of the victim. The victim is Dimmesdale, on whom he had so evidently set his gripe. يعني أمسك قبضته بقوة حول رقبة Dimmesdale, and the occasion was not long to see. So as you see, these are the main points in chapter 13, which prepare us for the meeting between Chillingworth and Hester in chapter 14. Chapter 14 is entitled Hester and the Physician, in which we have an introduction, presentation about the way Pearl look now. Normally, as I explained earlier, Pearl is associated with nature in order to highlight her purity, her innocence. And we also have an idea about the character of Chillingworth, who has changed from a normal human being to a kind of a devil with red light in his eyes. This is something confessed by him. He confesses that he has transformed into kind of a devil. And an idea about Hester and her vow, her oath that she made to Chillingworth, a reconsideration of this situation. Hester bade little Pearl run down to the margin of the water and play with the shells and tangled seaweed until she should have talked a while with yonder gatherer of herbs. This is Chillingworth, as he always gathered herbs for his profession of being a physician, a doctor. So she says, I would speak a word with you, a word that concerns us much. It's Mistress Hester that has a word for old Roger Chillingworth, as if he's being ironic or sarcastic with Hester, raising himself from his stooping posture. With all my heart, why, mistress, I hear good tidings of you. Now he confirms that Hester's reputation is developing in the society. She no longer a god than yestereve. She no longer is Hester of the badge of shame, the Hester who stood on the scaffold. And he said that people started to have an idea about removing the Scarlet Letter from her gown. The Scarlet Letter might be taken off your bosom. People started thinking of removing that Scarlet Letter. So she says, confirms that it lies not in the pleasure of the magistrates to take off the badge. Calmly she replied. It is not in the interest of the magistrate. It is something that I should think of, whether to forsake that letter or keep it for myself. Were I worthy to be quit of it, it would fall away of its own nature to be transformed into something that should speak a different purpose. So she highlights here that this Scarlet Letter, if I am suitable, if am I good enough, then that Scarlet Letter would mean something different for the people. Would not mean adulterer, would mean something else like able or angel or other interpretations that we will face in the future. As you see here, ever and anon too, there came a glare of red light out of his eyes, as if the old man's soul were on fire and kept on smoldering duskily within his breast, until by some casual puff of passion it was blown into a momentary flame. So this is an idea to highlight the devilishness and the fiendishness of the character of Dimmesdale. Now he started to be just like a devil with the red light in his own eyes, which means that he is on fire as far as he is seeking revenge. In a word, all Chillingworth was a striking evidence of a man's faculty of transforming himself into a devil. He is just like an evidence, مثال يحتذى به لشخص يغير حاله من إنسان عادي إلى devil. If he will only for a reasonable space of time undertake a devil's office, this unhappy person had effected such a transformation by devoting himself for 7 years to the analysis of the soul of Dimmesdale. What see you in my face? Asked the physician. He asked Hester. You look at it so earnestly, something that would make me weep. Hester replies, if there were any tears bitter enough for it. But let it pass. It's of yonder miserable man that I would speak. أريد أحكي لك عن هذا الشخص التعيس اللي هو Dimmesdale. And what about him? When we last spake together, now 7 years ago, it was in your pleasure to extort a promise, and now she speaks about the promise she made to him, and she tries to tell him that she will no longer keep this promise. Here Chillingworth answers, what choice had you? You don't have a choice. My finger pointed at this man. He is just like threatening her that my finger is pointed on this man. He is under my mercy. My gripe is on his neck and he can do nothing. I can take him down into dungeon. A dungeon يعني زنزانة تحت الأرض. It had been better so, said Hester Prynne. What evil have I done the man? Asked Chillingworth. I tell thee. And now he is not confessing that he is doing any harm to the character of Dimmesdale. Oh, I could reveal a goodly secret, but enough what art can do I have exhausted on him, that he now breathes and creeps about on earth is owing all to me. So he says that he is under my mercy because I am providing him with the health, care, and everything he needs. Better he had died at once. لو أن يعني ميت في تلك اللحظة أفضل مما he is undergoing this torture which you are throwing on him. Hast thou not tortured him enough? Said Hester, noticing the old man's look. Has he not paid thee all? ما وفى لحد الآن? No, he has but increased the debt, answered the physician, and as he proceeded, his manner lost its fiercer characteristics. Okay, and then the conversation goes on. And what am I now? Damned, demanded here, looking into her face, permitting the whole evil within him to be written on his feature. I have already told thee what I am. Now, as you see, and as I referred to at the beginning, Chillingworth confesses that he is just like a fiend, a devil, and who made me so? It was myself, cried Hester. It was I, no less than he. Why hast thou not avenged thyself on me? ليش ما انتقمت من عندي? I have left thee to the Scarlet Letter. If that has not avenged me, I can do no more. I will do no more than the Scarlet Letter can do. It has avenged thee. And Hester replies positively. And then she confirms that I must reveal the secrets. He must discern thee. He must know and recognize you in your true character. Woman, I could well nigh pity thee, said Chillingworth, unable to restrain a thrill of admiration. Thou hadst great elements. Pre-adventure hast thou met earlier with a better love than mine. This evil had not been. I pity thee for the good that has been wasted in thy nature. A kind of criticism and satire by Chillingworth to the character of Hester, for the hatred that has transformed a wise and just man to a fiend. So a kind of criticism is made or highlighted by the writer to the hatred. Hatred, which is a source of a kind of element that has changed Chillingworth from a wise person into a fiend, into a devil. Peace, Hester, replied the old man with a gloomy sternness. It's not granted me to pardon. I cannot forgive Dimmesdale. I have no such power as thou tellest me. Of my old faith, long forgotten, comes back to me and explains all that we do. So now it is not in his power to forgive. He is only keen on avenging himself from Dimmesdale. So this is the importance of chapter 14, Hester and the Physician, a meeting that highlights the devilishness of the character of Chillingworth, the weakness of the character of Dimmesdale, who is under the mercy of Chillingworth now, and the development in the character of Hester, who has become a good person, popular, loved by the society. All these issues are highlighted in chapter 14. I'd like to move to chapter 15 just to give you an idea about the main points. So as you see here, Hester and Pearl, after the encounter of Chillingworth and Hester, now we have an idea about Hester and Pearl. This chapter gives us an idea about Hester and Chillingworth, what has come next, a kind of highlight which is made on the marriage of Hester to Chillingworth, which is described as a crime, and Pearl is always associated with nature. Be it sin or no, said Hester bitterly as still she gazed after him, I hate the man. Now she states her hatred to the character of Chillingworth, who is her husband. Yes, I hate him, Hester, more bitterly than before. He betrayed me. He has done me worse wrong than I did him. Let men tremble to win the hand of women, unless they win along with it the utmost passion of her heart, else it may be their miserable fortune as it was Roger Chillingworth's. So the writer here highlights the concept of love. So men must suffer in love. Men must love a woman before getting married, and this situation did not or was not fulfilled in the case of Chillingworth Hester marriage, because we explained that earlier. They did not love each other. They married just like to fulfill their own purposes, and this was the outcome that they are separated at the end. So the writer confirms this idea. Let men tremble to win the hand of woman, unless they win along with it the utmost passion of her heart. A kind of advice to people that they must love women before getting burnt, else it may be their miserable misfortune, just like the miserable misfortune which Chillingworth suffers from. Later we have a conversation between Pearl and Hester. Where are you? As you see, she is associated with nature, always working, always moving, always flirting. A letter, the A letter, but freshly green instead of scarlet. The child bent her chin upon her breast and contemplated this device with strange interest. I wonder if mother will ask me what it means, thought Pell. Pell has made the A letter from the green leaves of trees, and now she is inquiring whether her mother will ask her about the significance of that letter. Just then she heard her mother calling, "My little Pell, the green letter and on thy childish bosom has no purpose. It is purposeless. But do you know, my child, what this letter means which your mother is doomed to wear? Yes, it is the great letter A." Now the writer gives another signification of the letter A, which gives us the quality or the adjective great. "Thou hast taught me in the horn book." Do you know, child, wherefore thy mother wears this letter? Do you know why I wear it? Truly, answered Pearl, it is for the same reason that the minister keeps his hand over his heart. So she connected these situations, and she connects that Dimmesdale now is associated with Hester as a lover, because the purpose of the letter is connected with the purpose of the gesture of that Dimmesdale used to make while keeping his hand over his heart. "And what reason is that?" she asks. "What has the letter to do with any heart except mine?" "Nay, mother, I have told all I know." More seriously than she was wont to speak. "Ask yonder old man." Pearl tells her mother, "Ask the old man, Roger Chillingworth, the physician, thou hast been talking with. It maybe he can tell. Maybe he can tell you further about the purpose of the letter. What does the letter mean, mother, and why do you wear it? And why the minister keep his hand over his heart? What shall I say? If this be the price of the child's sympathy, I cannot pay it." Then she spoke aloud. "Silly Pearl, what questions are these? There are many things in this world that a child must not ask." So here the writer refers to the importance of the character of Pearl and how she asks big and contemplative questions to her mother about the significance of the letter, and she connects the Scarlet Letter with the minister's putting his hand over his heart. So now she is as if she is an old person, old enough to think and issue such kind of questions. What does the Scarlet Letter mean? And then the next morning, first indication the child gave of being awake was by popping up her head from the pillow and making that other inquiry which she had. "Mother, mother, why does the minister keep his hand over his heart?" So she keeps repeating this idea in order to let the reader know that now the circumstances, the events are going in this way. It's going to be made somehow clear for others that there is a connection between the Scarlet Letter that Hester wears and the minister's gesture of putting his hand over his heart. These are what we have in chapter 15. Hester and Chillingworth, and she confesses that she hates Chillingworth and marrying him was a mistake, and how Pearl is associated with nature, and her questions to her mother concerning the Scarlet Letter. These are the main points that we wanted to highlight in chapter 15, which I believe will go to be the final and last chapter in this course. Thank you so much.